Hey, welcome to Watchmen Waiting on the Lord. Today is September 8th, 2023. Hope everyone's doing well. Happy Sabbath Day. It's not Sabbath yet, but it will be very soon. I'm going to talk about that in a second. The title of this is the Internet is Satan's Kingdom. And I'm going to get to that in a second. I just want to talk about a few things here first. I just thought of this a few seconds ago. As I was, this is like just like a small testimony. It's hard to express. As I'm making beeswax candles, just putting the wicks in them just 20 minutes ago, it just came to my mind, and I think it's worth giving a testimony. Just for me to be able to do that is a miracle. Just for me to get to make this video is a miracle. If you only knew where I was just 6 years ago, and then especially I would say 2018 back to 2009, I was in such bad shape. I have 4 pains. If you know what the pain suicide diseases are, they're pains that cause, they call them the suicide diseases because the pain in them is strong enough to elicit a suicidal response. So that's why they call it that. It's just like severe, it's more like acute nerve pain, muscle pain, just like bone aching, crunching, just awful feeling. And I'm remembering, I have other issues too. I have three acute abdominal disorders and other issues. So my testimony is, I remember as I'm making these candles and doing other things, I'm spray painting, like old muscle cars, like model kits. So I'm doing I haven't spoken in a long time, so I'm doing a 1970 Challenger, and so you're super gluing it together and spray painting and stuff. So I'm doing that, and it just came across me 20 minutes ago how lucky I am, because 2015, it's more like 2017, 2009 to 2017, I lost my ability to walk by about 95%, 90 or 95%. I was couch bound, bed bound, and got to the point where I was literally at 95 pounds. I wasn't eating, I wasn't sleeping, and I started to have difficulty with my breathing. As you can tell, I have difficulty speaking. It's called dysphonia. It's kind of like dystonia. It's got some of the same qualities to it, like breathiness, and then like got to take pauses and stuff. But I lay in my bed, and I was incredibly ill, like acute illness. And as I lay back in my bed, I wonder, and I wrote this in an autobiography that I wrote, like, how am I ever going to get out of this? I never pictured that I would live by myself. I did, and I never thought I'd make it out of my parents' home. And then look what's happened, right? And I'm having a lot of difficulty right now with my speaking. I can't tell. I'm absolutely fine. It's hard to tell before I start speaking. So another one of my disabilities is my throat. I don't know why it happened, but anyways, so where I was, I never thought it would ever be possible again to get to this point. And look at me now, and I'm very close, I think, to going to university. It's fully online accredited universities, but I want to give my testimony that it was through God who did this. There's no one else who could do anything so miraculous to put me back in this position. I'm telling you, yes, it was me who put a lot of work into it, but I'm telling you, it was the Spirit of God. It was the Spirit of God that brought me here. If you ever want to read my book, if you ever want to see my book, I won't put it down here because I'm not going to sell things on this, but if you're ever interested in it, just ask me. Pardon me, give me a second. Have you seen the weather? Have you seen all the things that are happening? There are so many weather events, like you become desensitized to all the stuff that's happening. Because I swear every day there's like a major flood. There's like you look out in the Atlantic right now. That's a record-breaking hurricane. It's Category 5 now. Imagine, they said there's wind gusts up to 200 miles an hour, and so Category 5 winds up to 185, wind gusts of 200 miles an hour. I don't know where it's going to go, but these things, floods, storms, are happening all over the globe. And you know what? As I called my brothers, and I tried to tell them, but I'm not going to push it. Like, this is it. And if you don't believe this, like, we're very close to the end. Like, I personally, in my heart, I don't believe in a 7-year tribulation, okay? I think it's going to happen very quickly. But it's going to lead up, and we're going to go through, like, we're in judgment now. If you don't think we're in judgment now, what do you think it is? Because it has to have some type of name, right? And just because you're not going through something doesn't mean someone else isn't. So I said to my brothers, if you don't believe what I'm telling you, then just focus on one thing. Number one, remember the stories before 2019, news stories. There weren't many big news stories, were there? And you'd hear maybe once a month about, maybe a volcano, maybe about a big earthquake or something like that. Those were pretty normal. Not every day, multiple times per day. And it's not just that, it's that they're record breaking. So I said to my brothers, if you don't believe me about Jesus Christ, then just look at that and decide for yourself. So happy Sabbath day. What do I want to say about the Sabbath? I talk about, like, I do believe in the Sabbath, and I don't think that we're supposed to, I do believe it's a commandment because it's right there, right? It's the 4th commandment. People think it's nullified. I don't think it is. When you look in the Bible, Jesus and Paul, for all of them for that matter, we're still celebrating it. So I just think that it was the animal sacrifices and other rituals that we're not supposed to do. But what I wanted to talk about is because I am sick, because I live alone, I can't keep it. And I'm not going to be one of those people who tries to be so perfect and be like that. And I know it says man for the Sabbath. I know that verse in the Bible. I find I have trouble when it comes to that. I think what matters when you're celebrating the Sabbath is that, and what I meant by living alone and I'm sick is, like, there are times where it's a Sabbath, right? I do a reading, I'll light a candle or something like that. I think it's in your heart what matters. If you're not sick, it's easier for you to keep the Sabbath. But for me, I live alone. I have to get things. If I don't get things, I can end up in a lot of trouble with the illnesses that I have. So I find I get, as I started to try to celebrate the Sabbath properly, I couldn't, I'd go to the grocery store and it would be maybe if it'd be late on a Friday, the sun was down, or a Saturday, and I would step inside the grocery store. I'd be like, uh-oh, I was just like, God judges people um, also by their hearts. He knows what they mean. So, pardon, give me another break. I'm going to read this. This is, I wrote this. This is interesting. And the internet is Satan's kingdom, which I believe fully is. Without the internet, all the stuff that's happening right now, I don't think would have come about without electronics and the internet. Pardon me a second. I could be having a perfect day, and because I don't live with people, I don't speak, unless the phone goes or something. It's so tough to speak, man. Like it's hard. So I have to take breaks. I felt inspired to write this after watching a video that woke me up even more than I already am about this issue. Remember these two verses. My people perish from a lack of knowledge. So that's in the book of Hosea. And in the book of Daniel, it says to shut up the book until the time of the end. Many will travel to and fro, and knowledge will increase. Remember those verses. Personally, I've noticed in the last 5 years, especially, how much social media, all different kinds of apps, television and movies that stream millions of hours of wasted time. It's more than millions, it's probably in the billions. From 2009 to 2017, I was acutely ill, so I didn't really use social media or the internet. So during that time, I had no phones, I didn't really know about them. I knew about them, but I just, I never had one in my hand to use them. I missed that change, and I have a different perspective because when I came back, everything changed. Everyone had a phone, and even third world countries were using cell phones and smartphones. When you see people starving with phones, excuse me, you know the devil is involved. That's what I think. Like, can you imagine, what if it was Nintendo? You see a bunch of starving people in third world countries playing Nintendo or something like that. I remember a time in 1997 and prior to that when none of these things, except for movies, television, were here. Yes, we had Nintendo and television and Atari. But life is much simpler for obvious reasons. When I saw the first cell phones, I felt that was the beginning of the end, and I was right. So that was in 1997. I knew cell phones were out, but when I saw my friend with one in his hand, I knew it. I knew that was the end of privacy. You can make all the arguments and debates you want. I'm not incorrect. Life was better. I'm the kind of person who would rather be outside or talk in person and not by texting. Texting can trigger arguments without emotion, so you wonder why so many arguments happen, because a lot of the things you say in them, unless you put some stupid emoji, right? How are they going to know? And don't get me wrong, they are useful. Can trigger arguments. People say things they wouldn't in person, and many people have big mouths only online. What I've noticed is it isn't talked about that much, if at all. Even if you're a follower of Jesus Christ, you notice that social media and electronics in general are a big problem for a variety of reasons. It takes us away from God and what really matters in life. What I recognized, I saw a content creator mention, and it triggered me to write this. You might hear Christians talking about how much social media and phones are an issue. All kinds of social issues, debates, arguments, and wars start from them because they happen so quickly. So the whole thing is mentally unhealthy and unnatural. Who the hell decided that it was a good idea to let music or phones inside the classroom? When I was in school, I had a Walkman, yes, with a tape, if you remember that. You could take your pencil, if your battery ran out and you didn't have enough battery power, you could use your pencil to rewind it. I am that old. That was in the early 1990s. Early to mid. What I noticed was it wasn't any, pardon me a sec. What I noticed is that it's not any particular app. It's just the internet in general. And that's what people don't point out. They point out other things, social media, but it's the internet. People debate why our lives are better now. Banking, groceries, Amazon, talking easily to anyone in the world, selling things, dating, the list is extensive. The reality is that life wasn't worse. We had all our factories still here and not in other countries. You know, people will say, well, it's more expensive. Well, people had jobs. More people had jobs. We were more sufficient, you know, self-sufficient. The internet and all these categories, TVs, movies, all of it. The internet has managed to turn whole societies against themselves. LGBTQ wouldn't exist otherwise. Well, they would, you know, all that stuff exists, but it wouldn't be spread in the same ability that you can now. Is it so it's a weapon. Is it possible that the internet is part of the beast spoken in the Bible? I know my prophecy, but it still could be part of it. It certainly is. It's a part of a beast system. The end is approaching quickly with crazy events everywhere. And it followed the rising of phones and these devices. That's what people don't put together. Do you get it now? So it's the book of Daniel. Remember and never forget who the God of this world is. I grew up both with and without electronics because I'm from Generation X. Imaginations were different then. What does Satan want to do? He wants to split families apart, and he has succeeded because of television, and a really bad one, and we all know this now, how evil they are. Hollywood. And by the way, I don't watch these videos, but I watch Christian videos, so I know about it. All these all-seeing eye videos, they give the signs with their hands, you know, like this, and they put eyes and pyramids all over the place. It was that Doja Cat. Just absolutely evil stuff. Hollywood, they just spew garbage. Social media, people comparing lives all day long. Narcissists on social media who use people and extort them, and the device is a weapon for them. Crime, human trafficking, lawlessness, and a generation of godless youth. Do you expect God will let the only free country on earth be godless? I mean, you know, like, I'm not saying it's the only free country, but as far as certain laws goes, yes. I believe with all my heart that Satan is in charge of it all. He's the God of this earth. Don't get me wrong, God owns this earth. He has power over this earth, but it's the internet. This is how it all spiraled out of control. If I'm wrong, tell me how below. How did it start then? I dare you to unplug and turn off the internet and your phone for just 24 hours. Do it. You might actually find some peace. I heard something quite interesting in a video I saw. He was speaking about the time at the end in Daniel. Many people going to and fro as so many people go in the end will go to and fro. 5 billion people per year, get this number, 5 billion people per year travel on an airplane. Many of those people are repeat. 5 billion, that number's right. Whatever could knowledge increased mean, it's here, but when did it begin? From the time the steamboat came around, the train, the plane, our lives were always the same. Good values, marriage values, morals, and law. Marriage values. Cities got bigger and bigger, jets, passenger jets, and ships that traveled faster, and they built them to unimaginable sizes and tonnages. Can you remember? And they still do it, but you know, the cruise ships would get bigger and bigger, and one would try to outdo another. I certainly remember that. And it's just insane now. Our world changed in lightning speed in comparison with all the rest of history. The new generation will never understand and know what I lived through, and I'm only 45, pardon me. The fastest a man could travel prior to the steam train was 40 kilometers per hour with a horse. It took weeks in the least or months just to find out that a war or a death began. The telegraph came and the phone. Gossip wasn't a thing until, well, gossip was always a thing, but in smaller areas, but not till, you know, the telephone. Gossip didn't spread in a few minutes like it does today and hurt many people. God kept his word. We are here now with artificial intelligence. How could AI not be the epitome of what was mentioned in the book of Daniel? Mostly in the 1900s until now, we had excessive jumps in travel capability and gain of knowledge. There's a chart somewhere. I don't know. I would have to look it up, but there is a chart. You can search for it where it shows how quickly knowledge has increased, like year by year, since the dawn of time. Of all time, our knowledge didn't double until somewhere, I believe it was the 1700s. It could be another 100 years until that doubled again. So it could be like 1700 to 1800. It was very slow. But now, with AI, it doubles every single day. Every single day. How could that not be the epitome of what was spoken in the book of Daniel? And it says, the time of the end. We are in the end. Go look at the weather. If you aren't going through crazy weather events, well, guess what? The rest of the world is. What I'm saying here is that the internet, Hollywood especially, where everything spews, from every kind of evil idea, phones, tablets, laptops, everything electronic, and the way the devil has us trapped and addicted to these worthless devices. I'm not putting down these devices as far as their helpfulness. I can fully understand why some Christians need to stop everything altogether. So there's many who, well, I don't know how many there is, but I'm sure there's probably not many who actually do dare to turn off the internet and stuff like that. I've certainly dialed down on the stuff I do. Have you tried giving up movies or TV for just one day? You might find peace you didn't know existed. Go for a walk instead, or start a hobby. Just like you, I watched thousands of movies and shows, but I gave it all up years ago. I always loved, so I was like I loved horror movies, like movies like Halloween movies and stuff like that. I was a fan. I remember, the very last horror movie I watched, I was watching the new Rob Zombie Halloween. So he made a rendition of Halloween, and there was Like it looked like real murders in there, like it just one after the other after the other. And because I was reading the Bible at the time quite a bit, I felt disgusted. The only movie I've seen since is The Apostle Paul by Mel Gibson. I think it was by Mel Gibson. I'm quite sure it was. I stopped wasting my time. I go on walks and no one. When I go outside, I notice. Like I'm in an area where there are thousands of people. Okay, and out of those thousands of people, like only on the perfect weather days do I ever really see any amount of people out. I don't see many people out walking really at all. And when I walk by, when it's darker, well, not dark, I see flashes of televisions everywhere, and it just reminds me of like the way I used to be. People are all in a trance. If these electronic devices weren't here, all the signs at the end wouldn't be here either. Think of all the garbage the internet, like pornography, which only perpetuates trafficking. What do they say? 40 or 50% of the internet is porn. I don't want to know how much is child porn. Videos about things that have no value. They only discourage others in most videos. People compare themselves to others. And families. It was never meant to be that way. In a closer society, yes, it was always like that, but we did not have access to watch it happen in real time. All the arguments and debates are there. To turn off the internet and TV is to turn off the world. What I mean is worldly. I'm not saying it's all bad. There are good, wholesome learning videos and entertaining videos that do matter. I hear right now in the United States, I think it's in probably the Democratic cities, it's a new thing to use TikTok. Like someone will make a TikTok video and they'll all meet and they'll videotape them like 100 to 1,000 kids looting stores. Certainly California, it's probably, Philly, Chicago, all those places. Can you imagine? This is the lawlessness spoken of in the Bible. The internet is a tool where the risk versus benefit far heavier on the risk end of the spectrum. Once upon a time, everyone knew their neighbors and people had time for one another. People helped one another if they needed it. Kids were all over the place in the streets. Now, and I would know from selling door to door, there's a Ring camera. So if let's just say I went to 5,000 houses, okay, over 4 or 5 months, I would say 65% of the homes have a Ring camera. They'll be used against us, I'm sure, in the end. There must be a place where, there's like a main central place where someone can view them. People can tap into those things. People have the power to tap into your videos. I didn't realize it was going to be this long. Your electronics through the mic can manage to map out your home. So it doesn't matter if you're speaking to someone or not, they can tap into it. And when they hear you speak, when they hear noises, they can do like a bat can. They can do like echolocation and they can map out your home. They can tell where you are in the home too because it bounces off you. Just like a fish, like under the water, like a fish finder or like a radar. I think I've expressed what I want in that regard. Can you see the simplicity of it? The internet is the issue. Take away the internet and phones, and I guarantee people's imaginations will go wild. They'll be different, and people will invent different things. I don't mean electronics. Read books, learn, and come back to God. Remember when communities were more close-knit and knew the things happening around them? When you zombify people into a trance and overwhelm them with pointless information, people get away with murder because of the sheer number of distractions. If I weren't sick, I would move to the country or to the far outskirts of the city. when you hear the government saying something huge, yeah, you know when you look on the news and you hear government say something big is happening or going to happen, uh, when they tell you to look left, look right. For instance, I think this is happening all over the world, but you see it especially in the States in their political system, like those balloons, the UFOs, Hunter Biden. And while they tell you that, they're distracting you. Why? Because they're passing laws behind your back. They put so many distractions out there while they do all this really evil criminal stuff. Oh, this is the last part. This is a very tough video for me to make today. I wanted to add this about artificial intelligence. We're in trouble. How long has artificial intelligence been released for now? As far as I'm aware, about 1 year. I don't know if ChatGPT is attached to the actual internet. I heard them talking about that, how it could get out of control, but I don't know if it is. I know Hollywood is on strike for several reasons, but one is artificial intelligence. AI is making humans obsolete in almost every area. Now you can use AI to copy someone's voice, and so they could do it with me easily. They only need a few seconds of a person's voice, and they only need a few seconds, or up to like 5 seconds, of body movement or facial movements. I saw Elvis, I think it was Elvis, and there was a song with Kurt Cobain, and he was singing like a Jimi Hendrix song or something. And it sounded exactly like him. You wouldn't know the difference. To me, that spells the end. I can remember in the movie Patton, George Patton. I think it was like a 1970 movie. My battery's gonna run out here. When he says, "What's the point anymore in fighting wars?" Because Werner von Braun and the Nazis had made push-button weapons. So it's the same comparison, with the V1 and V2 rockets. I heard just yesterday what artificial intelligence did to a banker. It tricked a banker that it was the real voice. I guess someone got all you need is someone's number, their card, and so they got AI to speak to someone at the bank, and it tricked the banker. It was the real voice of that person, and it was having a conversation with them, and so I guess it had stolen their identification. It asked for money, and they transferred their money. Anyways, thanks for watching my video. I am in a rush right now. Happy Sabbath, by the way. Take care.